Some of y'all really hated this book, and I think I know why. Hey BookTube, V. Today we're talking about Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. Now this is a book that I absolutely love but didn't want to make a gush video on. But then my friend Memodeth on Twitter was like, hey, a lot of people really hate this book, so I think we should talk about it. I'm going to give one of my normal spoiler-free reviews, and then I am going to talk about some points that I found on Goodreads that sort of help explain why other people didn't enjoy it. And I think it comes down to two things. If you don't listen to anything else in this video, just know that the two reasons that people did not like this book are genre and audience, and I will explain. Ninth House is a new adult urban fantasy novel that shows that Leigh Bardugo can write more than just YA fantasy. Our protagonist, Alex Stern, is a student at Yale. She's also a member of a very special secret society called Lethe, which is the ninth house of the supposedly 8 houses of the Vale. These are the houses like Skull and Bones, which are super famous for being like super exclusive clubs, like presidents are part of these organizations. You sort of get the idea. Add in a murder mystery that may or may not involve these houses, a missing mentor, and some very unusual activity by New Haven's resident ghosts, and you get Ninth House. I really like how the magic system was set up in this book and how authentically gritty and raw it was. Each society has their own magical flavor. Some turn into werewolves, some make mind control medicine, others are really good at making contracts or reading entrails to know which stocks to pick this quarter. The societies do their magical goings-on Thursday nights, and this is when Alex's house, Lethe, comes in. Lethe is sort of the babysitter of the other 8 houses. Their job is to make sure that nothing bad happens. Because in this world, magic is not anything close to the happy magical thing that we all think of. It's actually just people in power using that power to get more power. Power. There's a lot that can go wrong. Each society's house has its own flavor, its own blend of country club meets seedy back alley. Rich, but dirty. It feels a lot like The Magicians feels if you take out Fillory and add in Greek life. Most of the members of the houses that aren't Lethe are people that you're probably gonna hate. So it really feels good when Alex just messes with them on her quest to find answers. This is a really gritty book that shies away from plot armor and any sort of notion that magic is anything except for scary AF. Bardugo always does this thing where she layers in very intense action episodes with more mellow but important to the plot flashbacks. She really digs into Alex's thoughts while aloofly exploring the thoughts and motivations of the other characters. Now this is because we sort of see everything through Alex's eyes, or Darlington's eyes when we have chapters coming from his perspective. Since Alex doesn't get close with a lot of characters, it makes sense that our understanding is limited to her understanding of them. This book also discusses privilege in a way that is extensive but not preachy, which leads to a much more thoughtful consideration of the subject matter. Which we need, because sometimes when people discuss privilege, it just makes you want to roll your eyes and not listen to them. Alex is a scholarship kid at Yale, and the only reason she's there is because she can see the grays. Alex doesn't hate all her classmates, though. She seems to be friends with her roommates, and she respects and admires them as highly accomplished people. And they do things like help her with her homework and try to help make her Yale experience a little bit easier by being, good people. What troubles her a lot, though, is that a lot of the other houses see anyone who isn't in their house as someone to be manipulated. One spoiler-free example that clearly shows this is Lethe House's unofficial motto, "No more dead hobos." It's a flippant remark, but it resonates with Alex because she identifies more with the people that these houses manipulate than she does with her own classmates at Yale. I really enjoyed this book, and I cannot wait for the sequels. I am an urban fantasy buff at the moment. I'm trying to learn more about the genre because I got into Dresden Files, and now I just can't stop. And I'm really excited to see what comes next. Now on to the downsides, because I would really like to be a balanced reviewer. If you're the kind of person who really appreciates trigger warnings, just take this as trigger warning everything, or read some more reviews to see if the particular thing that upsets you is included in this book. Alex has had a really hard life, and there have been some truly terrible things that have happened to her. And even though the narrative is with you and with people who are going through pain, this probably isn't the kind of thing that you want to read if you are looking for a fun escape. The biggest complaints that I saw on Goodreads about this book were that it is slow and pretentious. But I would have to argue that it kind of needs to be. And let me explain. Ninth House is the first book in a 5+ book series according to Bardugo's Twitter, and there's a lot of world building that goes with that. People who mostly read popular YA probably aren't used to having to push through that kind of world building because it's usually not included in that genre. In YA fantasy, a setting is more of a backdrop where we explore the characters and their motivations and the plot a little bit more. Whereas in urban fantasy, the setting is just as important to the story as the characters because you start with a world that's real and then you have to build up this magical world that coexists that we just haven't noticed before. And in urban fantasy, there's a lot of passages of text that just describe the setting in very intimate detail. It's almost like a letter written by a local to the place that they call home. The real-life lore of a place really helps to build the fantastical element of the urban fantasy piece. Because of this difference in approach, I think a lot of people who loved Bardugo for the Grishaverse books aren't going to like Ninth House. It's just not the same kind of story, and that's okay. Now on to the ounce of pretension. When your story's set in an Ivy League school, there's going to be pretentious stuff. It comes with the territory, and it is vital for setting up the conversation about privilege, which is a huge theme in this book. So instead of just saying, oh, this is pretentious, I don't want to read it, be like, this is pretentious for a reason, let's figure out why. The other one-star reviews seem to be written by people who either only got 50 pages through the book or freaked out because it's so dark. Now, dark fantasy is something that a lot of people either love or hate. It's raw, it's gritty, and it brings out the absolute worst in a character, and it does that on purpose. It's the kind of thing that if you don't like it, I would highly suggest you go read something else and find something that brings you joy, because some of us can only find joy in misery, and this is the book for us. Another one of Bardugo's works, Six of Crows, is a really good example of YA fantasy that is dark but has so many plot holes that you know that nobody's actually going to die. At least as far as I've gotten, so that's not a spoiler, because you don't know how far I've gotten. It was fun for me to see Bardugo do something different and sort of cross that line over into truly dark fantasy. Now, I know I like to harp on YA fantasy a lot, but there's a lot of value in YA fantasy. There's also a lot of value in dark fantasy or urban fantasy or any other genre of fantasy that you want to read. Different people like different things. So the way I try to review books is to look at what I think the book was going for and then compare it to the expectations that come with writing a book that was going for this particular thing. Ninth House does a really good job of being an urban fantasy book, and if you're into this genre, I highly suggest that you pick it up. And if it's not your cup of tea, you should check out some of my other reviews to try to find something that you'd like to read more. If you like what I do, hit the subscribe button and join the caffeination. Like, share, subscribe, share this with all your friends, your enemies, people you barely know but want to bug. Actually, no, don't spam. If you like these more in-depth spoiler-free reviews, please tell me in the comments below. If you want me to talk about spoilers or maybe do a discussion video for other people who have read the book, you should tell me that in the comments below. And if you think this video sucks, tell me in the comments below and I will try to suck better next time. As always, thank you for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.